Now, if you know it's happening, then you can progressively respond in a way that benefits you. One of the ways I think about that is that there is a gap between wherever we are and where we would be if we were fully aligned with our true or authentic selves and the universe. So we are challenged to close that gap. And if we do not choose to make progress on closing that gap, then eventually we will break down as a living being. We will get sick. We will acquire chronic disease experience, or what we call life will end. Now, there are a lot of complicated things there, and people won't fully understand that, but that experience causes chronic stress. Mm-hmm. And there is within us living chromosomes. The ends of these chromosomes are called telomeres. And those telomeres are the part of us that scientists use to measure, estimate the remaining length of our lives. Because the more chronic stress you suffer, every time we go through a cell renewal process, our telomeres shorten. Mm. Stress causes that shortening to accelerate. They shorten faster.
Yeah.
Now, if you live your life in the right way, your telomeres will resurrect themselves and grow so that you'll have more life. But if you don't correct the stress, if you don't correct the life of inauthenticity that you're living, then your telomeres will shorten progressively faster.
I'm glad you clarified that. So when you're saying living in the right way, it's living with that authenticity. And when we're in that authenticity, we are connected the same way that you were talking about being connected with being able to go into that bookstore back in the 60s and 70s and just intuitively be guided to, this is the next book I need to read, right? Yes. That it's not some, I guess, profound, like, oh, this is exactly what this looks like every moment of my life, or I have to be in this job because that's my authentic truth, and so for 25 years this is it's more of a adapting to moment and being able to know that served a purpose. And sometimes it's important to let go of those lessons, let go of that was the opportunity, and now I'm evolving or moving forward, and that this might be more of what's residing with my authentic truth now that I've grown and learned and been more accustomed to tools and resilience. Is that a fair way to say that as well?
Yes. Well, we're in a very complicated place scientifically, but it is fairly simple when you know it. And let me say what I mean by that. Living authentically includes eating correctly, eating in a way that helps your body to be authentic, speaking the self-talk that we do. The self-talk that we do has to be authentic in the sense that it is self-talk that is nurturing to who we are, who we really are. The way in since all humans and all life constitute one undivided energetic system, the way we relate to other humans and all life is part of our authenticity. The way we relate to source is part of our authenticity. So when I say live right, I'm talking about those things. They're not complicated. They may be difficult and challenging when you've been taught to do different things.
Yeah.
But when you do different things, you are making yourself vulnerable to medical and mental problems and possibly the shortening of your life.
Mm.
But they may be more, you're more familiar with doing these unhelpful things.
Right.
And it's difficult to break those habits. But what you should be doing is not complicated. It's just difficult and challenging. But here is the more important part of it. Doing the right things in your body turns ultimately into chemistry, your body chemistry. Your body chemistry reflects what you're doing, whether it is authentic or inauthentic. In the epigenetic process, which is the process that guides your cellular reproduction cycle, the way that works is that on the surface of your genes, there are something like antennae. And the function of these antennae is to sample your body chemistry so that your system knows what specific cells and proteins are to be reproduced so that they reproduce the right you. The you that is either being authentic or not authentic. So one of the ways that you help yourself is to change your habits so that you can facilitate the process of your system changing what gets reproduced.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those things together make up your body chemistry. So you can be authentic and you'll produce a different person, someone who is different than you have been all of your life. Or you can continue doing what you're doing and your system will just go right ahead and produce the same you that you have been.
So from that trauma perspective, we've inherited certain patterns or genes. We've also been raised in environments that reinforce or enforce other patterns. And so by the time we get to this place, and I find this early 20s in my work to be this really pivotal point between I feel so depressed and isolated and confused and anxious about everything in my life. And I find myself having these conversations with these 20-something-year-olds of, it's okay to just be you. It's okay to be like, what's resonating in your heart? What's resonating, like, sure, that's what you've been told. That was the belief system you held. And maybe that was good or bad, or we don't have to assess that, but it just is. And now you're here. And now you have a new way of learning and growing and potential. And I feel, at least in my journey, and I think I know some conversations we've had in your own journey of we all get caught up in those cycles of holding on to things for too long or being in our comfort and familiar zones for one reason or another and not making the choices that might be what you're saying, bringing us to our most authentic place, and our body and other energy frequencies and vibrations are maybe pushing back against those choices. Because I think that what we're talking about, I like to bring it back for the viewers of just, this isn't about some huge leap. You don't have to be a different person in a day or get your whole life figured out. Because I feel that's something that I feel when I'm having these conversations, and really with anybody from any age, is I've heard everything from, well, I don't get to have a choice because my parents are paying for my college tuition and I have to do the thing that they expect me to do, all the way to people who are in different generations in older generations saying, I'm too old, it's going to take too much effort at this point in my life, I just want to relax and have fun and not worry about being so stressed out about having to make these changes. And what I find refreshing about what you're saying is it's just getting closer to what resonates more authentically with yourself, and that's really maybe the essence of what I find in my work is the missing ingredient, is how I put it. We feel like we made some delicious dish and it's just not sitting quite right, and I feel like that missing ingredient is, how do we get back to a more empowered, more authentic sense of ourselves that's not constantly fighting against our energy and our body systems.
Yes. Well, people who are confronted with these decisions need to understand that our energy systems are very strong, and it takes as much as 15, 20, 25 years for the problems we're creating for ourselves to manifest physically. So we may think that this problem of inflammation is just coming up for some recent transgressions against myself, but that's not true.
Yeah.
These transgressions have been going on for years and years and years before they manifest physically. But the energy has been traumatized all of those years, and it finally has broken down to a degree that the vulnerability shows in your physical being. See, the thing people don't understand is that the energy is always communicating with all other energy. So you could think of yourself as a energy system of subsidiary energy systems. And all of these systems are in a constant moment-to-moment communication with each other. They are saying to each other, all systems are good. I am functioning properly. I am making all of my communication tasks on time. And I'm getting good feedback from the other systems. Now, you begin to traumatize those, and the message changes. It is getting more and more difficult for me to function properly. I am not achieving optimal homeostasis. How's your condition? Same story. I have so much trauma weight that I think my ability to communicate will end soon. So this is going on for all of these years until finally it breaks down. So there is an energy system somewhere that prevents inflammation, and the communication between that system and the inflammation producing system breaks down. The communication is no longer there, so the inflammation says, now my time to dance.
Yes, I love that illustration that you conjured up there, brought up there, is this idea that there's, these multiple layers that's happening over time. And it's overly simplistic to think, oh, hey, this is happening, so this must be an immediate reaction to something, because that stress compounded over time, not living in our authentic place, traumas inherited, many, many different layers to this, and then that's getting constantly transgressed against in all of our systems, and then shows up, one day, and you're like, what's happening, right?
Yes.
I don't. So yeah, I really appreciate that. True to form, we've covered so much ground, and I feel like we could probably talk for hours and hours, but value both of our time. And I think the question that I asked you, which I think we have touched upon, was what would be the thing that you feel like the world needs to know the most about, or what does the world need to know at this point? And so we've really kind of covered many layers of that. In wrapping up our discussions today, is there anything that you feel like we have left out, or that really helps wrap all of this back together?
Yes. I think the thing that it would help people to know, although I'm not confident that knowing it would produce the result we would like to see, but people should know that we are designed to live more than 120 years illness-free, with robust health and well-being. The reason we don't do that is because we're enculturated to live in a way that we destroy that potential very early in our existence. By the time we're 30 or 40, we've probably destroyed that possibility. But the great thing is that we always can recover a great deal of that potential if we begin to live, as we discussed earlier, in the right way. We can recover a good part of that because we can pretty much fully restore the energy. It will be more difficult to restore the damage we've done to our physical bodies, but we can also recover our physical bodies to a substantial degree. But we really have to be knowledgeable and disciplined for the remainder of our days in order to do that. But that's the wonderfully positive story about us as human beings. If we knew these things and we learn to be authentic, we can recover. But it takes longer for the physical body to recover than for our energy to recover.
That makes sense to me. And I have a few resources that I'm going to share with links and things that you have shared with me. I think one of my final thoughts today is, makes sense that we're getting caught up in what's happening around us. We don't live in an isolated chamber, so we are a part of this world. We are interconnected to things, so we not to shut it out. But it sounds like to me, in our conversation and what you're just saying in the conclusion there, is if we take more time to tap in with ourselves, to start to just open up a conversation and communication, both with that knowledge piece, so getting the knowledge, having the experience, having the exposure to, which is hopefully part of what we're doing here today, and really trying to practice in that or sit with that. And I read something yesterday that was, if we can sit 1.6 seconds longer in something that creates discomfort for us than we could yesterday, that is true progress.
Yeah.
Leaps and bounds are great. As somebody who maximizes my efforts to try and take those leaps and bounds, and I find that being able to just sit and be, if you don't meditate yet, being able to just sit and breathe, for 3 seconds in the beginning of your day, that's one step closer to that authentic self than maybe you were yesterday. So that's my big takeaway of what I'm hearing us, kind of in all these different facets is find a moment for yourself to really get attuned with what's really going on inside of me, what's really happening for me in this experience, in this existence of this moment, and how do I connect that with the knowledge and exposure and experiences. That feels very real and tangible to me.
Yes.
I think that it's very easy to get, again, lost, confused, jumbled up, overwhelmed by any and all of this information. And so I think just taking this today as exposure, I'm taking it as a beautiful conversation, as we always have, and that we're going to be able to share our conversation. I mean, this is a very typical Richard and Jessica conversation, just kind of floating and flowing through material, and I always love it. So yeah, we're getting to be able to expose and give people that experience, and then they can sit with what is residing inside of them with each of these points, and be able to then get curious about that and do some excavating of their own into some of the links that I'll provide, and go from here.
Yes. Very good.
Great. Well, I very much appreciate you joining me here on our channel.